Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Nice to see so many familiar faces today. What a joy. My name is Bill Moran, and I have the extreme joy of the support of so many people in this room, longtime friends, collaborators, type nerds, lovers of ink, librarians, students. My favorite students are all here. See what I did there? See what I did? But I have to say, well, first of all, thank you to you, but also to the people on the screen here, Aiden, Jean, and Maureen from the Goldstein. Man, talk about a dream team to work with. Holy crap. We've got gifted curators and directors, and Maureen, who's also here, hung this exhibition. What a joy to work with her. So those three people just made this really special. Also, we're kind of standing on Stephanie's shoulders because she curated this exhibit in Milwaukee, and we had the pleasure of bringing it here, and the team at Goldstein was kind enough to host us. So we also have to say thanks to Mark Simonson, who's been a huge supporter of the museum over the years, and to work with your friend and your collaborator and your hero is just a real personal joy for me. So thank you, Mark. Gotta say thanks to Nancy Moran, Jim's wife, people who support us, David Carpenter, of course, and Carol Moran, who she encouraged me. That means a lot, so thank you, Carol. Right? My older daughter called this photo on the left Beardy McPherson. So I had the pleasure of working with Jim in a couple of capacities. First, as his printer's devil when he was working at Moran's Quality Printer on our dad. And then we had numerous opportunities to collaborate on the book, Hamilton and History of Headlines. And so to be working in his shadow for many years, and then having the joy of working with your brother as a collaborator at Hamilton Woodtype, him as director, me as artistic director, and Stephanie as associate director. That was really wonderful. What I appreciate about the photograph on the left, you can kind of see her. There she is, right? She's 3 years old. No, I'm kidding. but she was a student at IU, right? And she attended she was brought by our colleague Paul Brown to be at the museum, study at the museum, and one of the many brilliant decisions Jim Moran made was to hire her. So bravo to these two. And then this great photo in the middle is us around 2012 before the old Hamilton factory was torn down. So yeah. The words museum and muse share the same core concept, and that's to be inspired. And so walking into Hamilton for the first time in 2002, 2001, anyway, I was just like, this is fabulous. 1.5 million pieces of wood type, presses, and people and volunteers, and this glorious, weird, wonderful space. And it's like, I gotta work here. And so that was, I got inspired walking in the door the first time. And the door I walked in is in this building. So you're looking at a really funny facade that was developed by the Two Rivers Historical Society. That little H over the door that you see there, it was like meant to be a typecase pull, right? And so they had that manufactured, and the logo was put up there. And I just want to share a little bit of background information with you. The company was founded, Hamilton Manufacturing was founded in 1888 in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. They made wood type, they made printing equipment, they made cabinetry. The museum was established in 1999, and it operates in an unused section of the museum. And that was creepy sometimes, but also fun, because it was this big, beautiful old building from 1916. Old, it was an old building. So let's see, they hired their first employee in 2004, Greg Corrigan, and then Jim and I get hired. We start volunteering and then get hired in 2009. Stephanie joins us in 2011. And it was all fun and interesting and terrifying, but there were also community hurdles that we had to overcome. The building was only heated 4 days a week. That's Monday through Thursday. Guess when we held workshops? Yeah. The museum is adjacent to a manufacturing space, 16 buildings. How many buildings? 48 buildings in the center of Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and we were in one of them. There's major tensions between the employees in the company and the owners because of outstanding labor issues, outsourcing labor issues. And virtually all the families in the community had family members who worked there. We had to move in 2013. The building got torn down in 2014. And Hamilton was unsure, the community was unsure about how to respond to this museum that they had really mixed feelings about because they employed so many people in the community and they loved their company. There was a tremendous loyalty working for this manufacturing company that kind of betrayed them. Well, I think it's fair to say straight out betrayed them. And so what are these 3 people working in this old building for? And so people would come in and Jim and Stephanie had to field these retirees who was like, I have this piece of type, would you like it for your collection? And then there were magnificent things, patterns and machinery that was really monumental. It made us aware what a huge footprint that Hamilton had in the community. And I think it's fair to say they accepted us with open arms after we're like, okay, they seem nice. 3 things every museum should have. Bad luck looks like good luck looks like bad luck. The first thing every museum should have is periodic flooding. especially if you're a fundraiser working in a city far away, because then these 2 people had to do, actually I helped with some of the cleanup. The lion's share fell to Jim and Stephanie in terms of vacuuming up leaky water. And so the thing that the building might be leaking 3 blocks away, but the water would meander into our space. That was always the way it seemed to go, right? And so having periodic flooding means that it calls attention. You can get people interested in supporting you, big paper companies and fellow printers and fellow artists. So that was a good thing. I mean, it was, yeah. The next thing is we were very fortunate to have Justine Nagin make this documentary film called Typeface. This premiered in 2010. And what was wonderful is Wisconsin Public Television picked it up and broadcast it around their member stations, and then National Public Television picked it up. And so it showed all across the country, which was quite remarkable because it was kind of doom and gloom in the movie. If you've ever seen the documentary, it's kind of a worrisome, what's going to become of this place, right? A lot of hand-wringing. That too is a great motivator of people. So that was fortunate. And then the third thing is a corporate retailer sponsor who wants to tell your story. And so I had the tremendous pleasure of collaborating with the folks at Target Corporation and their champion, Maureen McGuire, who's with us today, who I'm still on speaking terms with, which is wonderful. And those were things that really launched us in many ways. And so I want to just show you a little video from this clothing line that we did, collaborated with Target on. How's sound okay?
Yeah.
Authentic can be defined as
Handcrafted.
The originator.
Something you can touch and feel.
something that you just haven't seen anywhere else.
We're working with the Hamilton Woodblock Museum to create some unique graphics for Target.
My name is Jim Moran, and I'm the director here at the Hamilton Woodtype Museum. And this is my brother Bill. We're standing in the Hamilton factory where from 1880 until 1985 they made wood type for the printing industry.
You walk into this place and it's art and it's history all combined.
The kind of typography and graphics that they have here are really unique and something that we couldn't find really anywhere else in the country, maybe in the world.
This is not something that anybody else would typically have on an article of clothing, but I think that's what really keeps it fresh.
I really hope that people see some of these old graphics and know that, you know, this is where it started. It is a piece of history.
They even did the photo shoot in the museum. That was so much fun. A little surreal, but really fun. So what's happened since then? These series of fortunate, unfortunate events, a lot. Stephanie's going to talk about this in a few minutes, but our annual conference called Ways Views takes place every November. Students in the room, we offer a scholarship. You should apply to attend this conference in the fall. We attract 300 plus attendees every year. I think we are one of the more well-known type conferences globally. We host international speakers. We can pull people in primarily from the United States, but also from all over the world. The word flourish for what Stephanie has done with public workshops is a gross understatement. She has made this magical. You'll hear more about her work in a minute. And thinking about outreach, thinking about audiences that typically aren't consuming letterpress printing, which is really important and one of the things that Stephanie has just done a magical job with. Jim has served as, well, you began as museum director, and then your second title was? Collection manager. And so having a third generation letterpress printer serve in this role, helping interpret these artifacts, that was really important for us from a storytelling standpoint, to be able to describe what we had, do research on what we had, and to be able to share it with the public, not only in Two Rivers, but also online. The other thing that we tackled over the last 15 years is this thing called the Wood Type Legacy Project. I'll talk about that more in a second. It also started generating revenue for us for digital font sales, and we started attracting major sponsors, both large and small. So our friends at Adobe, Mark Simonson, who I've already mentioned, fonts by Heffler and Company, and J.P. Porter at Shoot the Moon Productions. You know, she dragged us kicking and screaming into the 21st century. It's like, no, you need better projectors. No, you need better sound. And she just made us better. And so I think of her as a corporate sponsor. Mohawk Papers, Monotype, Needle Paper, etc. So this is a funny one. It's hard to describe the importance of this, but going from being an organization that served under the Two Rivers Historical Society that wanted to tell a local story, to being an internationally recognized museum as a 501c nonprofit, owning the building we're in, and then getting an endowment from a couple of major donors, it took 6-7 years. And my friends who I would complain to or cry with about the things that we were facing as organizations, mostly Carol was the one I cried. But the fact is that this little piece of information here really set us on an extremely positive path, so that was important. So we keep making wood type in collaboration with the museum and international designers. We make new wood type designs for use in production of new faces, not just wood type faces, but also digital. And so that was extremely important for us, is to be able to share the collection with people who haven't yet been to Two Rivers. And so that was a watershed moment. The person who most inspired me to do this was a woman named Susanna Lichko, type designer with Emigre Fonts based in San Francisco. She named one of her very beautiful revivals, Mrs. Eves, who was John Baskerville's, for the type nerds in the audience, John Baskerville's widow. And so telling the story of an underrepresented individual who contributed greatly to a manufacturing process, specifically type making process, what got me started in reaching out to globally known type designers, including a guy named Matthew Carter. Again, type nerdery for those of you who are love type. So Matthew had designed this typeface. He was going to call it Carter Latin, and I had to call him on the phone. Mr. Carter, can we name this typeface after a guy named Jim Moran? He's like, sure. So we had to get in the pattern of asking internationally known designers to name their typefaces after people who worked at the museum. So Jim Van Lanen was instrumental in getting the museum going. He was president of the Two Rivers Historical Society for many years. He was our best friend and he was a challenge to work with, but he trusted us. He trusted all of us, and we are grateful for him, and we named the typeface after him. The Walker Art Center showcased this typeface in, I want to say, 2014 as part of a larger type exhibition. The other thing that we started doing is instead of using the traditional type cutting tools, we started looking at CNC routing as a way of making our patterns and other ways of doing wood type production. And so thinking about how analog and digital blended together was really important as an organization. I asked a colleague, well, what do you think about using new digital tools? And he said, if J.E. Hamilton, the founder of the company, was alive today, he'd insist you use the best tools. And that was really reassuring to me, especially since I'd already spent a bunch of money having CNC. So the trial and error of a two-color typeface is what you're looking at here. This is what we call a chromatic typeface. And so you're trying to register the black to the red. I was talking to Matthew about it a year after we were working with it. And I basically said to him, you know, you gave us the most difficult job you could imagine in terms of this type design. And he said, I'm sorry, but too bad. And so that was Matthew. He was a sweet guy. Another type designer who some of you may be familiar with is Eric Spiekerman. I call this A Year Living Dangerously with a Famous Type Designer, if you know that movie. Anyway, Eric was wonderful to talk to on the phone, but the emails were nasty. He just gave me so much grief about the specifics in terms of how this worked, but it was a real joy to work with him getting the digital designs, and then we named this one for Dave Arts, who you'll see in this slide. And so Dave Arts was a type trimmer, and type trimming is once you carve a piece of wood type, somebody has to go in and get those little fine corners carved out there, and this is Dave working it. You know how chefs bring their knives into the restaurant when they're doing their thing? Dave would come in with his own trimming tools. That's pretty specialized, so I always appreciated that, and it was a joy to be able to name this typeface after him. Happy coincidence, Eric Spiekerman only names his typefaces with 4-letter words. And Dave Arts had 4 letters in his name. It was like, happy day. And then I would get these production notes from him. We did the first cutting, and then Eric's got all this feedback for us, and then the nasty emails started coming. Why can't you get this spacing right? He was holding us to a digital standard for an analog process, which was hard.
Yeah, I can see that.
More of Eric's notes. This is me shellacking half rounds of maple wood. We did it in 3 different sizes. This is the 6-inch tall type that you see here. Long grain maple. We had to get this all machined at a milling company in Appleton, Wisconsin. Shaved down to the right height so it was suitable for printing. So we did it about 2 inches tall, 6 inches tall, and then we did it 11 inches tall. Unfortunately, maple trees don't grow that big around, and so we had to use a different technique. And so what you're looking at here is 1/8 inch MDF board, medium density fiber board, mounted on another piece of wood with some fancy 3M adhesive. Learning curve, let's just say that. Lots of learning curves. And then the other cool thing was then putting shellac on this stuff. You had to put 5 coats of shellac on it. And MDF acts like a sponge. It sucks all of that shellac into the wood, and then and so you go through it really fast. But you had to cut it with denatured alcohol, which we learned from the Brilski family, who you'll hear more about in just a minute. But this is me late night listening to Peter Gabriel while I'm shellacking type. And so these blocks that you see here are all 3 feet long, and so we're using the same gaming and grouping technique that Hamilton used, just on gigantic pieces of wood. And then this happens. You buy a carton of oat milk and you see your typeface, Eric's typeface, although I felt it was kind of mine. Anyway, but that's the We Believe that you see right here, that's Eric's typeface. Next project I want to talk about is Marion Banchis, that's who you see on the left. And we named this type that she designed after Bernice Schwapper, who was also a type trimmer. And all of these octogenarians who would still come into the museum and talk to us and greet us and ask us questions and answer questions. It was the most magnificent collaboration with people of a previous generation who were really, really gifted craftspeople and completely overlooked by the design industry. So that was a tremendously fortunate thing. So I said to Marion, so you want to design a typeface? And she said, does it have to be a typeface? So what she did was she came up with this border stamping, she used a border stamping tool that you see in the middle of this photograph to create a series of ornaments using this machine. This is a magnificent piece of stamping machinery that you can do ornamental printer's borders with. And what she came up with was these 6 symbols. That was the entire alphabet. But the things that you can do with these 6 symbols is this kind of stuff. So you can start printing patterns, and you can start making letter forms with these patterns, and you can use it as decorative elements. You could get it digitally, and you could buy it from the museum as an analog border pattern. And so our colleague Rich Kegler really pushed specimen books for us, did some magnificent printing, and then we also worked with selling and promoting this as a digital typeface. I think our favorite collaborator over the years was Norbert Brilski, who you see on the right here, and Nick Sherman, who designed this beautiful typeface. This is a real oddball. It's bifurcated reverse stress. It's Italian. I think it's referred to as Italian as reverse stress, if I'm not mistaken. Those Italians, right? So Nick did this typeface. We released it both digitally and analog, and I think it's really important to say here that these projects are 2 to 3 years in the making, right? So you see the original drawings, you start seeing the vector artwork, you're getting refinements, we make letterpress proofs with them, and then try cutting them on the pantograph. And so here's Norb working at the pantograph machine, which is a tracing tool, which I'll say more about in a minute. And so we named that typeface after Norb Brilski. There's a nice rendering of it and the beautiful wood type that came with it. The next project we worked on was with a calligrapher and type designer based out of New York called Lynn Ewan. She's amazing if you don't know about her. My students, all my favorite students are here. Did you write her name down? Get your notebook. Welcome to Bill's class. So we named this typeface after Etta Shove, who was J.E. Hamilton's wife. She was the company's first bookkeeper in 1888 or 80.
1880.
1880. So she's the company's first bookkeeper, and so we thought she deserved credit. I mean, she had to put up with that crazy husband of hers making wood type all the time. And so she comes up with this typeface called Etta, HWT Etta, and she did 2 versions of it. She did Etta East and Etta West. And here we are cutting it. This was a challenge for the team that's doing the type cutting because it's a really complex face, but it rewards at a really high level, as you see here. So what was cool about looking at Lynn's experimentation that you see on the left here is that she's thinking about something that feels vintage, feels old-fashioned, but there's also a modernity to it that I find really admirable. She also shared with us some experimentation as it relates to doing multiple colors within the given letter forms. Got it? Okay, great. And then this is the other version of it. And for me, it's just, and then ask them a monstrous favor. Life advice, right there, you heard it here. So this is a really beautiful futurist typeface that we named after Mardel Dubeck. And Mardel is my hero. Let me turn the volume down because you're about to listen to a screaming pantograph machine. Just to give you a taste. It's like being in a dentist's office, but we don't want this machine drilling your teeth. So what we see here is on the right side of the frame, we've got the pattern, and she takes the tracing tool there. She goes around the perimeter of the letter form, and on the left side of the frame, you see a high-speed drill bit cutting that piece of wood. But the important thing with the pantograph is it's a shrinking machine. So you start off with a 12-inch letter form template, and it can make different increments of reduction. So it can go 3 to 1, can go 2 to 1. Can you get 4 to 1? No. So 3 to 1 is the greatest reduction. But that was important from a type design standpoint, is you want to work with something big in order to yield something with smaller details. So that's Mardel. She's being helped out by George Brilski, who is the daughter of Norbert Brilski. So again, having the great fortune of multi-generational families. Mardel Dubeck, who you see here, there she is with Stephen Heller, one of our design heroes, and his wife, Louise Feely, overseeing the cutting of that. Man, is that a dream come true when your heroes come to Two Rivers and you're watching them make something that they made that you helped them bring to life as a piece of wood type. So there's the finished piece, and just so much fun to have to proof this stuff and make refinements and work with these people. And here is Mark Simonson again. We asked him to design a typeface for us, and we asked him to name it for Don Connick, who you see on the right side of the page there. And Don was one of our, to have somebody on the Two Rivers Historical Society board who was 100% in your corner, this was Don Connick. And so it was a real joy to commission Mark to do this. We'll talk more about this when we get a chance to interview Mark, but this drawing came about really quickly. And I was just so thrilled when he showed me this preliminary sketch. And then to be able to take it from this sketch to making prototypes, so to speak, and that's what you see on the right here, where we started experimenting with color and overprinting. Mark's really genius idea was to have a fully square typeface format. And so the I is the H and the H is the I. And so you're looking at the full set there. M's and W's are the same character. And what was also really wonderful about this was Mark was designing it for multiple sizes of wood type. And so, again, we'll talk more about that when we have them all to ourselves. Next project is Craig Welsh, who you see on the left. He worked with Elaine Lustig Cohen, who was the widow of Alvin Lustig, a really brilliant mid-century graphic designer. And Craig wanted to take these 5 characters that Alvin Lustig had drawn, and he wanted to fill out the character set. So he worked with Elaine to complete the alphabet. And we published it, and this is what it looks like. There's 2 versions of it. You see a solid version and an inline version on the left. And you see the geometry that Craig used to do that. Here we're looking at finished patterns that you see in the upper left-hand corner, and then the type that helped make that. The other thing that was really amazing was watching the experimental work that the various type designers did, and Craig made these beautiful ornamental pieces which he used to help promote the piece. The last project that I'm going to talk about is the project with Juliet Shen. She came to us in 2009 and asked us if we could work with her on a typeface for the Lushootseed tribe, the Salish tribe. The language is called Lushootseed. I think I got that right?
Yeah, Tulalip.
The Tulalip tribe, the language is called Lushootseed. And so the photograph, that's Juliet on the left, the photograph on the right, they use this typeface in tribal language schools in Washington State. And so rather than having kids sit at desks with ballpoint pens, they had printing presses, and we made wood type for them. And so this word that you see on the right there is listen, L-E-Q-E-C. And so what I also appreciated about Juliet's work is she's thinking about language acquisition for young people. And so the type design is very, very important from the standpoint of you want to learn how to read, the letters should look like this. And what's the letter that's easiest for kids to learn? Comic Sans. So anyways, but it works. And so when we saw this design, we thought, I thought, never mind. Anyway, it was profound to, this is the first, one of the earliest type projects that we worked on. And Juliet was really exacting. And then we packed it all up and shipped it in a box out to Washington State for the tribe to be able to use it. And so those are the wood type legacy projects, and that concludes my portion of it. We'll turn it over to my brother Jim.
Let's see if this works on a sweater. It may not. I might hold it. Can you hear me all right? This way? Huh? Oh.
Yeah.
What do you think? I can hear. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that we have in the collection, and a lot of them are not typed. You know, turn me down a little.
No, it's just hitting your neck when you talk, and so we're getting the double duty of Jim underwater and
Okay, better?
Yeah, good.
All right. So we like to bill ourselves often as having the world's largest collection of type, but in fact there are many, many things in the collection that I will begin to talk a bit about. But first of all, museums get their collections in really strange ways. All of them do. And we are no different. And the thing is, earlier on, Bill had mentioned the fact that Jim Van Lanen essentially champions this museum, and they begin collecting things. They put out letters to printers. We'll take all the stuff you've got. Now, that was probably a mistake in his wording, but anyway, the thing of it is, they amass so many things, and they don't really know everything that they've got. So we continue collecting, because why not? One of the strangest ways that a collection has come to us was a phone call that I got one day from kind of a cranky old guy named Bill Robinson, who said, "Look, Jim, I got this collection. You probably would like it. I called UT Austin. They don't want it. So what do you think?" And I wasn't really sure what to think. And he said, "Oh, wait, first of all, there's 200 drawers of type, and they're going to cost you $100 each. So if you aren't willing to buy that up front, then we don't go any further." And I said, "I don't even know what the rest of the collection is, Bill, so maybe we can back up a little bit and talk about it." And so he explained that the Anderson family had begun printing in 1895 in Cincinnati as an offshoot of the local paper, right? The Cincinnati Enquirer is what it was called. But this, at that time, fourth generation family-owned shop was primarily circus, poster printer, billboards, everything related to the circus, the rodeo, the fair, the trips down the Ohio. But anyway, they had this collection, but like so many printers, they had stopped using letterpress. In their case, it was roughly 1985. And, you know, for letterpress printers, the end was more like, I'd say 1970, because offset had taken over. But you can saturate wooden blocks with all the ink you want to, which is a really big deal. So anyway, I really didn't know what to think, but when he began to talk about all these exquisite carved blocks, and there might be posters that go along with them, I thought, well, I'll send Bill. We'll make him go down there and take a look at it and see what we can find. And they said, you know, it's a lot of stuff. It fills more than one room. And they were right. I think that we have one corner of what we began to look at. And so Bill goes down and he looks at it for, I believe, a half a day, and he calls me up and he says, "I can't look at all of this stuff. There are stacks of what we would refer to as a 2-sheet block, meaning 52 by 40 inches, stacked 6 feet high, and there might be a dozen of them. And that's just in one part of the room. And there's more, there's posters, there's all of these things." And he said, "I can't look at it all, but we got to get it." And I said, "Okay, well, we got to pay for it too." And so we began looking at it a little bit closer, and we began to realize that those of us who are in common print shops, those 31 3/8 drawers, could actually be about 48 inches like these things. But it was a whole new education for us in terms of getting a collection. So then, as Bill's beginning to look at the representational posters of the blocks we'd be getting, he sees some rather unusual stuff. Circuses often traveled with the Ripley's Believe It or Not show, which, well, it's got some strange folks in it, you know, and they can be compelling, they can be offending, but what we began to realize is that what we are looking at is an incredible collection of printing equipment that we never would have guessed existed anymore. And even Enquirer, though they saved all of this stuff, were probably going to throw it away if we did not take it. So this becomes more and more fantastic the more we look at it. I came down, so the two of us went through even more, realizing we were not going to get through it, but yes, Bill was right, we had to have it, assuming we could pay for it. Because there's another thing that begins to emerge, and it's not only the fact that the blocks are in phenomenal condition, but the artwork itself is so unique that this is also American art, and it's worthy of preserving, if only for that fragment of time that these things capture. In addition, there was correspondence that came between Clyde Beatty and the owners of the shop, or all of those famous circus names. So we began, looking through these things. We began looking at the posters. This is what we would refer to as an 8-sheet circus poster. What you would find is that they would have these fantastic images, but they were smart enough to realize that simply because Cole Brothers had asked you to do it didn't mean that when Clyde Beatty joined the group that, you couldn't just change the tagline. So those of you who are familiar with even concert posters may know that you have an image, but then you have the changeable date, right? Today we're going to be in Minneapolis, tomorrow we're going to be in Austin, and then we'll be in Albert Lee, etc. And circuses follow suit. And so we would find that this incredible artwork existed in many forms, and in some cases you would find it in different parts of the country. So people were either trading it or selling it or stealing it. All are certainly possible. So the breakdown of these blocks becomes an incredible exercise in many ways one guy's incredible artwork. Primarily, these posters were 1 through 4 color. And one of the things that those who are involved in graphic design think about is, say, a CMYK idea, that your primary colors are cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. And that may be in the digital world. But what we began to learn from these blocks, carved by a guy named John Kerner, is that he was breaking them down in some of the most incredible ways. And when you look at the image on the right, you are seeing the breakdown of 3 of those colors. And of course, you're never going to venture into PMS colors because they don't exist. You aren't even going to use green because we can always make that with our combination of yellow and blue, depending on the order. So I had been a printer at that point for, well, most of my life. But the thing is, even the experiences at Hamilton didn't prepare me for how to print this collection. And you can't really go to too many people and ask them how they handle it, because the collections, to my knowledge, only existed at Hatch Showprint in Nashville. So that was the only place you could go. And you needed to understand color variation and tonal quality and how they work. And so when you consider that I moved it the wrong way, all right. Can I get a tapestry?
See the fine lines.
Oh, thank you so much. So you look at something brilliant like this, and as printers, we're looking at our work from 12 inches away, trying to make sure that registration is perfect. And as people who are carving massive blocks, these are phenomenally well done in terms of registration, but there's still a lot of work. And then we have to begin thinking about the actual thing and how circus images are not intended to be viewed from that far away, right? They are 40 feet away. They're at the top of the building, they're down the street. So these things are designed specifically with that idea of distance in mind. But I think the 4-color process here is kind of staggering. So this was the first time in Hamilton's history that Hamilton Museum's history, that we actually looked at a collection and said, why don't we get a professional here? Because we needed to catalog this well. It came to us in an incredibly random way. Earlier, I was telling you that they told us there's a lot. There was a lot of stuff there, and there was a room of stuff there, and they said, you may need 2 semis. And I thought,
okay, we really need 2 more semis of stuff in the museum. Anyway, it was just too fantastic to turn down. So we began making preparations, and I get a phone call from Mike Anderson, the owner of the company, says, Jimmy, we're all set. The 3rd semi is packed and we'll get the other 2 in the next few days. And I thought, so 5 semis we are bringing into the building. So you want to explain things like that to the board rather slowly so that they have time to sit down. But we, I think, made a wonderful move by bringing in a guy named Paul Pagnato, a collections manager with a great background that not only included various collections, but he was a printer as well, so he understood materials in a great way. He is sort of in the center of those 2 images there at the top. But if there are printers in the room, we all know roughly how many pieces of wood type you get with a given set. We were not ready for the 25A set, which somebody of this nature needed, because the massive volumes that they were setting meant that we were looking at the size of collections that you normally don't get to see. And it was in amazing shape. But, you know, I think earlier we had said that a lot of this was somewhat disorganized, but it kind of depended. They stopped doing letterpress in 1985. That meant if you put away that Barnum and Bailey set of pieces, that you were going to put them in the right order. They were going to be ideal. But, you know, as you get done, it's like any of us when we move out of the house, right? You know, you've got organized boxes and things at the beginning, and then at the end it's the vacuum cleaner and a standing lamp, and it gets a little mixed up. This is what it looks like in a perfect world. This is Jim Moran from Hatch helping us organize. One of the first things that we did was find those things that are like, of course, because we were looking at 109 crates of this stuff. Some of them were rather small, maybe only 4 by 4. Others were 5 by 7 feet and 6 feet tall. So we began marking them, the scope of it, even for those of us who unpacked it, became, well, surprising.
Where's the Ark of the Covenant?
So, yeah, a lot of space. But it was wonderful for the museum, simply because we were learning methods to continue the project. And are you trying to fade a little there? Yeah, she comes out better, but it's a dark slide. But you know, it's beginning to come into its own here. I'm happy to say that I believe we are down to only 22 crates of type and about 7 or 8 crates of images. But it is random, and it's exciting because it's like Christmas every day. It's also a kind of madness as you determine how you're going to sort these things. You know, on the other hand, it's such a fantastic collection, and we now have it in a condition that is useful to us and usable going forward to print. But you always come up with anomalies, and you begin to realize that printers in many ways were not sentimentalists, and so picking up a case of type, I realized that the underside was a little rugged. It wasn't smooth like a normal case, so you turn it over and you realize that there's probably a 1910 baseball player on the underside. Well, they were done with that poster, so let's cut it up and make type cases out of it. For those of you who know anything about Hatch Showprints collection, you have Doc Watson, Bill Monroe, chopped up and made into shelves because they didn't have shelves, you know. So when the job is done, it's done, you know. But these images are so amazing to us, and they're in great shape. and they tell different stories, so that, you know, the surprises will probably be there for years to come. And, you know, you appreciate the skill of those guys who were carving it. This is an example of a hit parade poster, but when I first realized that one of the blocks for the woman's image was blue and the other was yellow, I thought, won't I get green? Don't I, you know, well, you know, when you run them properly, they look incredible, and they are so subtle. When I look at the carving of those eyes, they are quite emotional, and yet they are very simple, but they're in the hands of an incredible artist. So we print those things, and we take them apart, and we print portions of them. I don't mean physically take them apart. We highlight. Cincinnati is right across the river from Lexington and horse country, massive amounts of horses in this collection. So simply being printers, we're always examining the image in all stages, whether we are inking it up or cleaning it up or reducing it with mineral spirits and seeing what that might look like in a reductive state. It's just fun to do. There are no directions with most of these blocks, and so color becomes an interpretation that you have to figure out. And generally speaking, the way that you print is from the lightest to the darkest color. That will work a good percentage of the time. But when you need to create the color green, of course, you cannot run your blue after your yellow. You can create a mustard-colored horse, or you can create a chestnut-colored horse, and it just depends on sequencing of colors. So we are getting an incredible education just in how to print. The other thing is, it may say yellow, but it doesn't tell you that that's actually a yellow with a tiny amount of red and an even smaller amount of black in it. So you begin to learn what makes colors richer and what they were intending for their audience. They wanted vibrant things. And so you get into something like a lion's head, and you know that you need to carve or to print the blue first. Even running it late, well, suddenly you're making a sort of purplish lion head, and so you got to back off a little bit. But you really need to appreciate their knowledge of the fact that now maybe when you add the last color, it's going to look like this. And so you have just staggering images that surprise us every time. And so we are working our way through this period of history when certain things were being done. You know, when a rollicking rink review was what you wanted to do on a Friday night, right? Entertainment took different forms. Within this and other collections that we've got, there is everything from the original Reefer Madness poster to a live Hollywood production of Dracula, House of the Living Dead, and then simply playing around with a Halloween night merchandise store's advertisement. A circus poster, as I was saying before, can be mixed and matched. And so this one is ideal for the King Brothers, 4 letters that'll fit in the top of that knockout. When you're done, you can just spot in who's ever circus, as long as their name is not too long. But seeing this original and then printing it, I thought, there has to be green ink, right? And it's like, no, if you're just handling your colors properly, that is what you get. But I will say these are registration nightmares, and but they're fun because, you know, the creation of the problem is where it all sort of starts. You know, the size of those things, I believe you had shown this one earlier, and you begin to get a scope that now we're working with pieces that are 20 by 8 feet. And they were done in sections, but the exploring of these is always really wonderful. In another crate, you may find something completely different, like musical groups that played in and around Cincinnati during the 1950s. And these are in some ways unknown musicians, right? So you're going through and maybe there's a name on the back, maybe there isn't. You begin doing research on the ones that are named, and I simply decided I was going to do a month-long tribute to all of these artists. And you find that in between the unknowns is Etta James or somebody like that. So you've got famous people. Betty McLaurin is not so well known anymore, but in the day, she was a big deal even beyond Cincinnati. So we use the blocks in a lot of ways. I was asked to teach at Penland a few years ago with Bill, and with these blocks we decided let's use them in a way that would maybe be reminiscent of how they originally were, meaning an album cover. So the students got to use these blocks and turn them into their own imaginary musician with, I would say, really nice effect. So the curiosity cabinet that we have brings out such an incredible variety of things. This is an odd-looking tiger to me. He seems friendly, maybe, but this is more of an engraving. I believe that based on the wood and other details, this is probably from about 1910. So we always have this historical information we're dealing with. We're always researching the names on it because we don't want to offend. You run into B.D. Cole. I decided I would look up Captain Astronaut. Maybe he's still around. But anyway, the thing is, they were using that name because when this poster came out, astronaut was a new word in people's vocabulary. So that was kind of a fantastical thing. Ooh, he's an astronaut. He's not a political cabinet member. Anyway, but we learn an awful lot by studying them, and they are things to celebrate. They are things to re-examine. And so a few years ago, we had written a grant, and it was to reinterpret a collection, which if you saw some of those early, believe it or not, images, or any of these, you see that there's things that you really want to only illustrate in a certain way and under certain people's hand. So we brought 4 artists in, and we gave each of them a category from, I believe, racism, sexism, animal exploitation, and ableism, thank you. These are kind of humorous in some ways, but they're also extremely offensive in others. And what that means is having a sensitive approach is the best way to go. And so that's sort of taking it to the newest direction, where you do everything in terms of printing them accurately, to reconsidering whether they are worth printing, and if so, how. So, since we are sort of moving into the future, I will let you go from there. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me all right? Great. I want to say thank you, Jim and Bill. I had such a lovely time. I was the luckiest gal in the world to work with you two for so long. So thank you so much.
That's right.
And thank you, Aiden, for letting us show our work here. It's really important to have it in front of a new audience. So thank you all for joining us tonight. So the museum, the Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum, is a special place. It's for artists, it's for designers, it's for students. It is a space where history meets creativity, and that's what was lovely to be able to present with both of them today, is that's how Hamilton works, is we bring old to the new and we see where it can go. In fact, our mission is preservation for creative use today. We are a working museum. So that means that not only do we make wood type like Hamilton did in the 1800s, we print like they did in the 1400s. It's really amazing because it means that our 1.5 million pieces of type is not just for us at the museum, the staff members, it is for everyone who comes through our doors. So people visit the museum from all over the world to study, see, and experience this collection. On a weekly basis, we see individuals coming in to take a tour. You can arrange a tour. Please come over. We'd be happy to have you. Be happy to show you around. Experience or actually see letterpress printing with these historic blocks. Participate in a workshop. Get hands-on. That's a big part of it being a working museum. These pieces don't just sit under glass. They don't just collect dust. It means that you actually get a tactile experience with pieces that actually might not have seen the light of day for 40 years if they're coming out of those crates in the Inquirer collection. It means you get to learn a new process. We're not just doing letterpress printing, we're doing bookmaking, we're doing calligraphy, we're doing things that are very much related to the printing arts. We don't just have such a specific narrow focus, we only do one thing. Something you can't see anywhere else. You can see wood type being made on original Hamilton factory machines. Literally, you can't see that anywhere else. Even if you're making wood type today, it's often on a CNC router or with a laser cutter. So you actually get to see it just like they used to. And it's really important for us to make sure that, again, this hands-on learning happens through accessible collections. You can come in, you can experience. We hope it's a one-of-a-kind thing that you walk away with. So we preserve these letter forms, we make it accessible to people today. We do this in many ways, and I just want us to look specifically at one group who comes in, because we absolutely adore them. It's the University of Kansas students, and they have been coming to Hamilton for a week for many, many years. Jim has helped teach the workshops. I've taught the workshops. We've seen 3 different instructors in the time that they've come, and so it's really important that these students, many had never done letterpress printing before, they'd never had a hands-on type experience, could have that at the museum. Also, selfie in front of the wood type wall. Please come to the museum, get your selfie in front of our wall. One of the things they did this last year when they came is they made a portfolio that was inspired by Amos Paul Kennedy Jr. I was very lucky to see him speak actually the last time I was here at the Minnesota Center for the Book. And so the instructor, Sam, on the left, wanted her students to explore what was possible by looking at another artist who is making work. So this is some of Amos's work. He is an American printer. He was born in 1948. He's a papermaker, a book artist, and he's really well known for social and political commentary, particularly with these printed posters that have many layers, both in their color and their message. He has a book out, go buy it. It is so inspiring. And we could connect those two communities. These students who always work on the computer, it was how I was trained when I learned graphic design. Finally, you got this hands-on connection, and they're also learning how to use their voice. Of course, we all have loud opinions, especially when we're in college, and this is one way that you can really take that inside voice and make it an outside voice. And I'm sure many of us heard the saying, freedom of the press is guaranteed only to those who own one. We own a lot. We are so happy to make them available to those who do not have one. Please come, please use our presses. All of us now have the presses, all of us now have the power. And it's important for us to engage all ages. So we're actively looking often at how we can do teen nights. And what's really fun with that group is also not just letterpress printing, but how can we do non-traditional printing methods. We have amazing instructors in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, who help us print tree rings and print fish. The ink that we use on the fish is non-toxic. We then clean the fish off, and then they are fed to birds. So I just want to let you all know, these fish have a long, long life, and we're happy to contribute that art is also part of that life. But it's really lovely to see these students who often come time and time again because they have now found a community at the museum. They know that Hamilton's a place where they can meet others that don't just go to their school and aren't just in their grade, and they can leave with these one-of-a-kind pieces they can't make anywhere else. We especially want to engage our broader audience of artists. We want to make sure that they can come together in a safe space for artists. So in 2023, we invited 3 artists to come and make work at the museum. It specifically became a BIWALK, so Black Indigenous Women of Color printing group. And Melissa Blunt, who is in this image, is the entire inspiration for this happening. From the grant that Jim spoke about earlier, and her husband, Ben Blunt, was one of those artists. She got up and she said, "Where are the Black women in your museum?" And I admit, I don't know. So I said, help us figure out how and where everyone has a place at Hamilton. And so this was one of our pathways that we took. We want to give these artists a place to express themselves. So this was the first group of artists. It was Jennifer Graves, Desiree Asperis, and Melissa Blunt. And as we were talking to them, one of the things I found very inspiring when I talked to them and what they needed out of time at Hamilton, and the first year they came, they had a week to come to the museum. They actually had not worked together. They said we need a place to be. We need to not just be artists, we need to be women, we need to be human, we need to not only focus on the output, we need to be. And that, in the end, after their time together, also became this thing about sisterhood. And that was really lovely. I'd never seen 3 artists come together and work as if they were best friends forever. I mean, they had not worked together, they had not really met or been together very often. And so seeing them come to the museum and totally transform the space and transform the people in our community was really lovely. And so it seemed as if they've been working together for years. And actually they will be joining us again this year. They're now gonna come back for 2 weeks' time. And they're continuing to explore that, and they are working with us to see how we can expand this next year. So there'll be an even more expanded BIWALK experience at the museum next year. We did a second year of BIWALK, so this was last year, and we had 3 stunning, inspirational, amazing artists. We had E. Bond, Julie Chen, and Sharon Ju. And seeing them explore the collection, at this point, we were able to even bring out bigger wood types. So we have another collection within the museum's collection that is not the Inquirer collection, but is the Globe collection, which came out of Chicago, a Chicago print shop. And it is full of type from 10 line all the way up to 72 line. So it's quite large stuff and beyond. In fact, that's just the first 2 rows. So seeing how they explored with it was really amazing. And not only did they print their own work, they provided a workshop that was really important for hands-on learning and bringing a different perspective to individuals in the local Two Rivers Manitowoc community. And then we created a mini lab gallery where these artists put up their work while they're working. Everyone knows whether you're working on a computer or a press, it's very easy to get very close up to your work for entirely too long. So they put their work up, they can look at it as the week goes on, but also not only do we do a workshop, but we do a pop-up gallery and then a talk. And so it allows the artists to talk about their work. And again, this is, we had a woman who came to this talk and she said, I've always seen the museum when I'm going to court every week to my appointed, like I have to go to these court appointments, and I see the museum and I think, what is this place? And I saw that you were gonna have an artist talk and I don't know how to get my art into the world. And now I have an idea. Like she asked the question, hey artists, how do I get my art into the world? And you know, Two Rivers, we don't get a room this full often when we have an artist talk. That one question made it all worth it. It meant that there was a direct connection to individuals in our community that didn't know how, and now they did. We also have personal artists who join us who know the type of collection we have at the museum, and they say that. I cannot get my hands on type that is bigger than my head anywhere else. So I want to come to Hamilton and I want to use that collection to make work that is very important to me. So this is Vida Sachish, and I actually was a student with her at Indiana University in grad school. So she's been coming to the museum for at least 15 years. She is a Chicago-based artist and educator. And she works with movable type to create edition prints that explore labor and identity in the content of immigration. She grew up in Croatia when it was still a part of Yugoslavia during the wars in the 1990s. This past year at Waysview, she presented on her work. In fact, if you didn't see it, it was a lovely, these little little children and they were singing about printing and typesetting. It was great, unforgettable. And seeing her make the work at Hamilton, present on the work at Hamilton, and then also display the work has been so important. So this is a short timeline, but on display until March 29th. If you're going to Chicago, at the Newberry in Chicago, their current exhibit is Making an Impression, Immigrant Printing in Chicago, and it includes 2 works by Vita. So highly recommend going and seeing this work because it's really amazing to see that whole path from thought to beginning to end. And her work specifically is looking at that conflict in that time, and also when we have conflict in Ukraine and all over the world. And so it's a quite moving exhibition, including Vita's work. And then the most wonderful time of year, it's not Christmas, it is Ways Goose. So Ways Goose is our conference. 300 people come from all over the world to celebrate letterpress printing, graphic design, typography. Come be nerds with us, that's what it is. We are so excited to have everyone come, find your flock, join us, and it really is, it's quite a time. I'm totally name dropping, by the way, for the next couple of slides, so heads up. But this is also for students. I put this in specifically so that if students are like, hey, I want to know some really amazing graphic designers, I totally pay attention when I'm in Bill's class and the other classes here, but who should I be looking up? These are some people you should look up. So over the years, we've been so lucky to work with really amazing designers. This last year, we had Annie Atkins, who does graphic design for the movie industry and also is the sweetest person on this earth. So that's always a bonus. We've had Jonathan Heffler, type designer, Gail Anderson, designer, Jessica Hish, Debbie Millman, Rob Sanders in the Letterform Archives, Kelly Anderson, who will knock your socks off with what she's doing with Rizzo and animation within design, Eric Spiekerman and Daphne Kuna, Matthew Carter, again, friends that you invite to come do stuff, speak at Ways Goose, and then ask them to do amazing things. And to that point, I want to say, this is a Sunday photo. We're tired, we're done. It has been a long weekend. Wow. But we are friends, right? The great thing about Ways Goose is that these individuals come, they stay almost often the whole weekend. They hang out, they bowl, they drink coffee. You can find them on the couch. They're watching the presentations right next to you. And so you get to really have a lovely time with individuals like Marion Batchew, Stephen Heller, and Louise Feely. And amazing, unexpected things happen at Ways Goose. Again, I told you that the BIWAC program came out of this discussion on stage. And we have amazing local celebrities like Mary Bruno of Bruno Press. And the best people come. Like I said, they become your friends. It's a lovely family reunion. So here we have this J.P. Porter, Selene Aubrey from Hat Show Print, and Kathleen O'Connell, who we have an exhibit of her work right now. And so that's what it is. It's a time of friends, it's a time of nerding out, it's a time of learning. You go back inspired after you've slept off the weekend, and you look back at your notebook, and you've maybe taken a workshop. There's workshops on Friday. We keep expanding and having fun. Last year, we even did like an animation with wood type with David Wolski. So there's letterpress printing, but if you're not a letterpress printer, you go, wow, what do I want to do? Should I come? Am I welcome? Should I be there? Yes, you should be there. There's something for everyone. If you like history, if you like hands-on. If you want to hear more from Jim and Bill, they often do our tour in the back, where you can see the room with the Ark of the Covenant. There's a swap and sale, which is one of my favorite things. It means letterpress printers make things before they come to the Ways Goose, and then you can either rent a table or pop a squat and find a spot, and then you can exchange prints, and you leave with this stack of amazing prints that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's because you made a connection with an individual there, and they have your work and you have theirs. And you go bowling. Saturday night we always go bowling. Did you know you were gonna go bowling with Alan Kitchen, an amazing letterpress printer from the UK? No, but that's something you can do at Ways Goose. So Sarah Matthews here is telling you our call for presentations and workshops currently open. So please, if you or someone you know has a cool presentation idea, go to woodtype.org because we would love to see what you're thinking of presenting on. And that is open until May 5th. So, really big prints. We have Ways Goose, it's wonderful, it's the best thing, it's November every year, it's our big conference. What do we do in the summer? Well, we get people to come and watch us run over pieces of paper with ink underneath and blocks. So we have 40 artists who come. This year it's going to be July 16th through 19th, 2025. It happens every 2 years. And we have 40 artists who come. They bring these blocks, they ink them up with their team, and they print them right there at Hamilton. It's free. Come watch it. It's a spectacle. It is a spectacle. There's no question. We do this with Beryl Lutsky and Katie Reese, and we are so lucky to be able to do it because you get to see these artists with these really intricate, really amazing, really stunning works of art. Also, it's really great. We are very entrenched in the letterpress printing community, which sometimes people, yes, that's a printmaker. Yes, we are a printmaker, but sometimes the two shall not meet. And so it's really lovely to be part of the printmaking community and have them come and share their knowledge with us. It's really lovely. It's 3.5 days of nonstop printing. We also made friends with Mike, the steamroller guy, so that's the worst. It's the city, always happy to come by, so come meet Mike. This was our print for 2023. We pre-printed the wood type because they told me I couldn't run over the vintage wood type with a steamroller. So we didn't, but it's really fun to remind everyone we're here to print ink. One of the really important things we do is we stay active in the current and contemporary letterpress community. So 9 or 10 years ago, I went to Jim and I said, Jim, we need a juried exhibit. We need to show contemporary letterpress, what's happening nowadays, because we do pride ourselves on being current within what's happening within letterpress. So that is what we do. It's called New Impressions. Each year, the museum looks forward to showcasing new and exciting work. One of the ways we do that is we help show their pieces. And we really pride ourselves on asking them what is the process. So we do a catalog that not only shows their work and gives their bio, but we want their description of their process to be as long, if not longer, than their bio, so that you can find that catalog digitally online for free. We have a free virtual tour that you can, like a virtual gallery you can see, but you can also buy the catalog, you know, if you like printed things. So please go in and check this work out because it's always exciting. Lucas on the left is using masking tape to print things if you just want to touch it. We take our work beyond the walls of the museum, so we just had New Impressions show at Signal Return in Detroit, and it's really great to see what happens when this exhibition goes to a new space. How is it shown there? We also make sure we're in the community, so when we were at Signal Return, we did a workshop. We love to do workshops. I think I have been to Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota many times over the last 3 months. I'll always come back. Just let me know when you want us to come bring some big wood type with us. Because it's always exciting to see that face when they go, oh, I get to touch this vintage circus block that, you know, printed circus posters back in the day. We're also doing it in the community. Not only we love to go out and take the stuff our way, but it's also very important at our Locust Farmers Market to say, hey, this stuff is fun, it's creative, it's entertaining, because we do have that long history of being part of the Two Rivers community, and so they know Hamilton made the dryer, but maybe they don't know Hamilton made wood type. And so if they get to take a free print, which you can do today if you go upstairs after our talk, you can make a print and take it home too. And that's why I wanted to show an image of the exhibition upstairs. This was our first Hamilton exhibition in Minnesota, so it was very important for us, and it's really great to be able to show and share this. We did a make and take print at the reception, which was really lovely, and that's why we wanted to do it again today. So you can be a part of the museum if you're not already. I know we have many members in the audience. There are lots of ways to get involved. You can become a member. You can come take a tour. You can get hands-on. You can order from our store. We have entirely too much fun figuring out what new things we want to put in the store, whether we're looking at the fancy block that we then make into a holographic sticker, or we make a map of Two Rivers, or we make an apron that's super comfy. If you have something you want, let me know, because there's not a lot of red tape. We kind of go, ooh, that'd be fun. Okay. So that's what's really important, is we straddle this line of history, contemporary, and it's one of the ways the museum is relevant to today's audiences. It's exciting to see how letterpress printing and its history, along with the constraints of this very specific art form, allow individuals and push individuals to find creative ways today. So the same type that was used to print newspaper headlines is now being used in new and artistic ways. As the largest manufacturer of wood type in the early 20th century, Hamilton type is found in countless print shops. If you have a print shop, you probably have a Hamilton cabinet or a furniture cabinet or wood type. Check the side of the capital A, that's where they marked it. So type that was made in Two Rivers, Wisconsin is found all over the globe. And that's so important for us to continue to preserve and share that history while also making sure that it has a new story and a new lifetime today. So working with our community and creating new prints is how we look forward to continuing this legacy for many years to come. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I know everyone wants to get to the printing fun upstairs and the gallery, but if there are any questions, we could do maybe just a couple. I can run to you. Or we can go upstairs. Yeah, hold on, Chris.
It's actually not a question, but Bill, I know you know that I'm usually not a rule follower. But I just wanted to give a big thanks to everyone for coming here today. It just as a student, I love sitting and listening to you guys talk. And one of the first moments where I felt really excited to be a part of this major was when I set foot into the letterpress studio downstairs, which Bill has been so kind to keep running. Yeah, it's just a quick thank you.
Thank you.
It can be a long one.
It can be a long question.
Do you ever retire any of the materials so that for long-term preservation?
Yes. It's always a sad affair, but the thing is, sometimes they're too fragile to even start, and so we typically will begin by oiling our blocks because that alone strengthens them a bit. But when you begin inking, you can sometimes begin to see that there is a problem, that they're flaking or something like that. So, yeah, there's a good amount of things that we never will. What we try to do, if at all possible, without damage, is to get one proof, because then there's always that possibility of making a replacement to those, particularly when it's a sequential block, say it's in a 4-color job. Mm-hmm.
Type nerd alert. This is for Bill. You were describing the form of Brilski, and you used the word Italian. And I wanted to ask you what the distinction is, or might be, between Italian and Tuscan.
Yeah, Italian is what we refer to as reversed stress. The thick parts of the letter are thin, and the thin parts of the letter are thick. Tuscan often refers to a bifurcated, that is a split terminal, and so Brilski has both. Thank you. Good question.
When you were describing the process of making the Eric Spiekermann font, did I understand correctly that it was you were laminating together layers, and were all of the layers processed material, or was there pure maple at one level?
No, it was budget driven because the letters were 11 inches tall and then varied in width. So sometimes they were 11 inches wide, sometimes 3 inches wide. And so having reliable, dimensionally stable material, that's such a good question, Jonathan. thank you. So you get a thick block and you put a skinny piece of wood on top, and they both had to be medium density fiberboard, just because the limitations of using a long grain maple would have been just prohibitive.
And does the MDF hold up as well, the impact surface?
I don't know, I never got to print it. We had to ship it off to Germany. But I'll grab a piece from the studio and I'll bring it up to the second floor so you can see it. All right, go see the exhibit. Oh, so, yeah, let's go see the exhibit.
Level 2.